For decades, we were led to believe that women only seek romance, tenderness, or emotional stability, as if the matter of size and physical desire were an exclusively male issue. But the scientific reality, when studied through data, surveys, and clinical experiments, shows something very different. Because yes, women also have clear preferences regarding size. And the surprising part is that these preferences don't align with popular myths. What most men think women want is often far from the truth. A team of researchers at the University of California carried out one of the most revealing experiments to date. They created 3D models of male members in different sizes and proportions, varying both length and girth. Dozens of women were asked to choose among these replicas which size they preferred. The result was striking. The vast majority agreed they did not want the largest or the smallest, but rather a very specific middle ground, which also varied depending on the context of the relationship. For a stable relationship, the average chosen size was around 12.7 to 13.2 centimeters erect, while for casual encounters the preference rose slightly to about 14 to 15 centimeters. This finding dismantles decades of male fantasies that equate virility with exaggeration and confirms that female satisfaction has much more to do with comfort, naturalness, and the feeling of fullness than with disproportionate measurements. And here's something even more noteworthy. Many women declared that what most influenced their pleasure was not so much the length but the girth. The firm contact with the vaginal walls, that sense of fullness and balanced pressure, turned out to be a more exciting factor than a few extra centimeters. This becomes even more evident in women over 50 or 60, where vaginal tissues tend to be more sensitive due to decreased estrogen and natural lubrication. An excessive size is not only undesired but can also cause pain, discomfort, and even micro-tears. What they truly seek is balance. Enough to stimulate, but not so much as to cause discomfort. Another interesting finding comes from studies in sexual psychology. A man's attractiveness is not measured only in centimeters. In interviews with women over 50, most answer that size matters, but far less than confidence, tenderness in touch, the ability to read nonverbal cues, and to sustain a deep emotional connection during intimacy. In other words, they may prefer a certain size, yes, but the way the man uses it, how he accompanies the act with words, caresses, and attention, is what determines whether the experience is unforgettable or merely mechanical. And here I want to pause on something crucial. When a man obsesses over comparing himself, constantly measuring whether he measures up or not, the only thing he conveys is insecurity. That anxiety not only affects his performance but also emotionally disconnects him from his partner. Women, on the other hand, value far more the man who, with whatever size he has, knows how to convey confidence, rhythm, and sensitivity. This is not a cliché. Several studies published in men's health journals conclude that sexual satisfaction is directly related to male self-confidence, not his centimeters. Moreover, we must not forget that sexual experience is not only physical. The female body responds strongly to emotional and psychological factors. A whispered comment, a desire-filled gaze, a touch at the exact moment can generate more arousal than any physical attribute. The brain is, after all, the main sexual organ, and in mature women, where experience and the mind play a central role, this is even more evident. So, if research already shows that the ideal size is not the extreme many believe, but rather a balanced measure that varies with the situation, why do we continue obsessing over unrealistic standards? The answer lies in culture, myths, and pornography, which have repeated the idea that bigger is always better. But science and, above all, the voice of mature women tell another story. They don't seek records. They seek harmony, sustained pleasure, comfort, and a man capable of connecting with their body and mind. Now, there's something else you should know, something rarely mentioned. Women distinguish between what they prefer physically and what makes them feel emotionally desired. And that combination is the key. Yes, there is a range of size that feels more pleasurable, but without confidence, tenderness, and that spark of connection, the number alone loses its value. In other words, you might fall within the ideal range, but if you don't know how to use it, if you fail to convey security or passion, you won't achieve the effect you expect. Knowing the range of size women prefer is only the entry point to the real secret. How to turn that knowledge into real pleasure? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Having the ideal measurement is useless if you don't know how to use it, and many men fail precisely because they focus on centimeters and forget everything else. What separates an average man from one who leaves a mark in intimacy is his ability to blend confidence, technique, and emotional connection. First, confidence. A woman, especially after 50 or 60, can immediately tell if her partner is insecure or self-conscious. That insecurity kills arousal, no matter the size. On the other hand, a man who acts naturally, who knows what he's doing and conveys security in every movement, triggers an immediate effect in the female brain. It activates desire. Female arousal doesn't start in the body. It starts in the mind, and your attitude is the key that opens or closes that door. Second, proper stimulation. Remember that for many mature women, natural lubrication decreases and sensitivity changes. This means foreplay is no longer optional. It's mandatory. Slow kisses, caresses on the skin, eye contact, even intimate words act as a biological accelerator. Science shows that an aroused brain releases more oxytocin and dopamine, which makes lubrication easier and opens the body to physical pleasure. A man who takes the time to prepare the ground is always remembered. Third, technique. Penetration alone is not enough. The key lies in understanding that most women get more pleasure from contact with the G-spot and girth than from length. This means controlled movements, pressure at specific angles, and constant attention to her reactions are worth more than any extra centimeter. This is where nonverbal communication comes into play. Listening to her moans, observing her breathing, feeling the tension in her muscles. Each of these signals tells you if you're on the right track or if you need to adjust. And don't forget something fundamental. The combination. Science has revealed that when a woman experiences both internal and external stimulation simultaneously, the intensity of her orgasm multiplies. That's why you shouldn't stick to only one approach. Learn to coordinate internal movements with external clitoral caresses, or vary the rhythm to surprise her instead of falling into monotony. That contrast between surprise and familiarity is what keeps the spark alive. But perhaps the most powerful of all is emotional connection. For mature women, intimacy is as much a physical act as it is an experience of trust and surrender. If you can make her feel safe, desired, and understood, her sexual response is amplified. That's why they often say they remember more the lover who knew how to connect than the one with impressive size. So the big lesson is this. It's not about having what others say matters, but about using what you have in the right way. If you pay attention, build trust, and apply the techniques science supports, you can turn every encounter into an unforgettable experience. And now I want to leave you with a question. What do you think is more important for mature women, size or the way a man uses it? Leave me your answer in the comments, because what you say can not only open debate but also help other men understand what is never spoken about in public.